So, Rebecca, thanks for taking the time to do this interview. It sounds like there's a lot of interesting things that have happened that I want to write a story about. But let's recap everything first, just from so I get the chronology again.
Sure.
When did you file the lawsuit, and what was the purpose? And then why did you withdraw the lawsuit? I think that was in January.
Sure. So we filed suit last July, and I represented at that time Matthew Pittard and Matthew Allende. And we filed suit here in Tampa in the Middle District of Florida for various violations of employment, labor, and contract law, as
Right.
well as some personal injury claims. And then we amended that suit once, I believe it was in November, to add additional defendants, including one of Sheikh Khaled's companies, Al-Thani Racing USA. And then we actually received responses from counsel on that side, both for Sheikh Khaled and for Al-Thani Racing
And that was
in January.
that was critical, wasn't it? Because, from July until that point, there it was hard to serve the lawsuit.
We were
Is that
working on
correct?
that's correct. We're working on serving him. Obviously, as an international defendant, it's difficult. It's not the same as serving an American company with a corporate office or officers that are easily served. So
Right.
yes, we also further developed the case just through research and then additional information we were able to obtain, which allowed us to amend the suit to add one of his companies as an employer. So there was a substantive change, not just for service to process reasons, but a substantive change for the underlying claims as well.
And once you got them to respond, that changed everything. Wasn't it an important moment in this lawsuit? I mean, I thought it was brilliant on your part to add these other companies that kind of drew them in. It seemed that was my interpretation.
Yes, well, it was the first time they actually had responded. So we knew that they had received the complaint, and it wasn't just that they didn't have any awareness of this or didn't know what the next steps were. Obviously, as a an international process of service, that's difficult. But U.S., it's straightforward. You
Right.
file your complaint. You serve the U.S. company. So there was no question as to whether he now had awareness of this suit. It is now whether he decides that he would like to hold himself and his company as accountable or not. And
And
so they thought, mhm,
I was going to say, and the court recognized that then as part of this process.
correct,
Yeah.
they did. And so they filed motions to dismiss based upon a few different jurisdictional issues.
Right.
And instead of moving forward with this suit, from the time that I first became counsel of record and we filed publicly until about January, we had more information that was coming in. And so
Right.
I had previously done a Twitter video stating to the public if anybody has information they'd like to share, whether you're working for him, have worked for him, or just have information, please let us know. It'll remain confidential. And we actually had several people
Wow.
contact my office. We had some anonymous emails, people that didn't want to be named that shared information. And then we had people that did want to be named and that were willing to come forward and share their information publicly. And it was very clear to me over the course of several months that people are scared of somebody who has financial resources and the ability to take whatever actions they wanted. And the underlying suit involves physical abuse, emotional abuse, and
So there
power,
were
abuse of power.
reasons. There were reasons for people to be afraid. In fact, I think I'm not sure what the status is, but there was a suspicion that one of your clients, the girlfriend or wife, I believe,
Mhm.
had been assaulted in her condo, and there was some concern that this was tied to the lawsuit.
Correct, correct. So you have a group of people, you have your first two plaintiffs that are willing to overcome their fear and want to hold somebody accountable.
Right.
And one of them has a significant military background, and the other one is just wanting to hold somebody accountable regardless of what may happen. I think, having your own physical body hurt and injured because of an
Yeah.
employer's actions gives you a different sense of confidence than maybe
Yeah.
someone who's yelling at you and then you escape that sort of situation. You have a lingering effect an impact that'll never leave you. And so I think the perspective of Matthew Allende with a physical injury is a little bit different than an employee who might have not, you look at their body, they don't have physical
Right.
injuries or damage. So I think that the individuals that came forward with information, some that were willing to be named and some that weren't, were stymied by the fact that there's 2 other people that did it first. 2 other people were brave enough to come forward, and now I want to share what I know and what I have.
And if you don't mind, when we're done, if you could share that Twitter video, I think that'd be cool to reference. If it's okay to do that, that would be phenomenal. The one that you put out.
Sure. I don't know if I still have it. I have a new Twitter account, and I got a lot of marriage proposals on the other one. So my messages were a little bit overrun, and it was
there you go.
Entertaining. But I will look to see if somebody has. Somebody has.
Just in case, it'd be cool to.
Yes, absolutely. Let me see if I can find it.
And then maybe even more people who may read these stories over there might, respond too. So
Sure.
You withdrew the suit voluntarily because now you were planning to refile. Have you refiled yet, or are you planning to, or what's happening with that?
We haven't refiled yet. We are shortly. We have, since the moment that we withdrew that case, the filings,
right,
or the complaint rather, we have continued our investigation and built the additional complaints for 3 other men who've come forward that also worked for Sheikh Khaled.
So so in other words, you're going to expand this from the 2 original plaintiffs to 5.
We now have 5.
Wow.
We have 5 plaintiffs, and the lawsuit is massive.
Wow.
We have additional plaintiffs, and we have multiple additional defendants, in addition to Sheikh Khaled and Al-Thani Racing USA.
Do we know what the total number of defendants are? A number, or if not, it's okay.
It's not finalized yet, but it's 5
That's
more.
all right. It's what? I'm sorry.
It's more than 5.
Oh, it's more than 5. Okay, great. And you would file in their jurisdiction, right? Is that in Massachusetts probably, or?
There's a few different districts we may file in. Massachusetts is where Al-Thani Racing is headquartered, and their corporate decisions are made. So that is one district. There's a few other districts in which Sheikh Khaled and his racing companies do business, and they're scattered throughout the United States.
And I know you haven't filed yet, so you don't need to identify the 3 additional people. But could you tell us a little bit about what these 3 additional plaintiffs bring to the lawsuit in terms of the character of the violence that was directed at the 2 original, the threats and the violence at the 2 original plaintiffs? Is that where the direction is with these 3 other plaintiffs, the additional, or can you talk about it or not?
Sure, I can talk a little bit about it. Yes, absolutely. The level of violence is actually much, much higher. So between the 5 plaintiffs, we have a total of 7 solicitations for murder. Yikes. Between these 5 men. One of the plaintiffs watched Sheikh murder somebody in front of him, actually asked him to assist in the murder, to which the plaintiff obviously said no. We have additional weapon solicitations.
So and that's going to be in the lawsuit, that he actually, according to a witness who's going to testify, that he actually he murdered somebody. Wow.
He murdered a fellow employee in front of one of the plaintiffs who's filing suit. And he asked the plaintiff to actively participate in the murder.
Do we know if this victim was a Qatari citizen or American
an Indian
citizen?
Employee.
An Indian employee? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you know about when that happened, or a little bit of? I don't want to push you too far because I know you haven't filed this yet, but any of the other details about, because that 7 solicitations for murder and actually witnessing him murder, that elevates the story even further beyond the drugs, the sex parties, and ordering these people to, commit violence against his critics or people he thought that were leaking information about him. and his family. That really is unbelievable.
Yes. And one of the people that Sheikh asked one of the plaintiffs to murder is the head of a United States race car organization.
Because go ahead. I'm just
They
my
had some
mind's
sort of,
already spinning. My mind's spinning about what it possibly could have been the motive. Oh my gosh. Go ahead. I'm
yes. So
sorry.
for the Indian employee, Sheikh's wife apparently felt slighted by an employee that didn't pick her up on time. And this employee that was murdered was the employee that did not pick her up on time.
Aye.
And the suit will allege the timeline for that and how that happened and the terror that the plaintiff felt in being involved in this. And this took place in Qatar, so you have an American citizen in a foreign country with a foreign royal. You can imagine that your chances and opportunities for escape are 0%.
Right.
There are no other options.
Right.
So that employee, the plaintiff observed that employee's abuse and then eventual murder.
And the additional 5 plaintiffs, are they all American or
All American men?
All American
men. Some of them, as Matthew Petard has served in the military. 2 of the additional plaintiffs have also served in the military, and one of them worked for the federal government.
Okay. And federal employee. Wow. This story just doesn't seem like it. Have you ever been involved in a case like this? And what do you think of this scenario? I mean, in terms of the plaintiffs and what they've had to go through, is there a way that you may characterize in your lawsuit when you file? I mean, how do you feel about?
I've worked cases like this. I do international drug trafficking and weapons trafficking defense, and then I was a prosecutor in those areas. So violence to me is a part of the work that I do. It's a niche practice of law, but that doesn't mean that anything is ever less shocking.
Right.
In this type of case involving somebody with resources in a royal family, that is very different than a foreign government who just simply has the resources and money. In this type of case, you have someone who is privileged and has the resources and the means to do essentially whatever they would like. And then because of their position and where they are, they're able to essentially, it's limitless what they'd like to do with their resources. You have people, places, money, planes, and then you have the protection of your family. So that's certainly different than a drug trafficking case or a drug trafficking case. None of the clients that I represent have ever lived through something like this.
Wow.
And my clients have worked in federal government where they are put in the line of duty in a very dangerous way. And that's their job to do that. And there is 0% chance of failure. You have to always succeed in your job. And then several of them have served in the military where your job is to defend in their position, their country. A lot of them worked in private security. So you're in a position where you're around things that aren't, certain or safe.
Right.
But for all of them, the situations they've been put in, this goes above and beyond your typical course of employment and where you would expect your job duties to lay, even for them. And you have deployable special forces experience in these clients. And even this is too much for them.
Wow. And do you remember the time frame about when that murder took place?
I don't have my notes directly in front of me. It is in the lawsuit, the specific date.
Okay. If you have something that doesn't give away, again, because you haven't filed, I'm sure they'll be reading this, but if you do have a time frame, that would be great if you could send it over to me. That would be fine. And sure. I'm just trying to think what else.
So this case has a few different instances where the plaintiffs were asked to commit sodomy or observe sodomy.
It was like a punishment?
Those are 2 different plaintiffs that had those 2 different experiences.
Oh my gosh. This is all under the protection of the Qatari government because this is the brother of the Qatari emir.
Correct.
You think he was empowered by that, the fact that his brother and he could do anything he wanted?
I think someone who's never truly been held accountable for their actions ever in life probably moves through their life thinking that the future will be the same. We're here to tell them that that is not the case. So there's one other thing I think may be of interest, and that is that Sheikh ordered an individual to hack another sheikh, and that sheikh is in Bahrain. And that sheikh was successfully hacked, and that was at the direction of Sheikh Khaled, who's obviously a Qatari sheikh.
Wow. So the brother, was it not, this order didn't come from the emir that we know of, but it was the brother who hacked to get into their computer system and emails, you mean, in terms of all that? Mm-hmm. And we're
successful. Websites, business websites, and personal email, and computer servers.
And what do we know what the person's, without identifying the person, obviously, because you haven't filed a suit yet, but will that person be identified in the lawsuit, the victim of the hack?
They will be, yes.
And do you know when that was about?
That was in the last 2 years.
Okay. And do you know if it was just a business person, or was it someone from the royal family, or
a personal enemy?
Oh, okay.
Specifically targeted. It is someone that Sheikh deals with, and in terms of a competition sense.
Okay. Did you want me to put in any information about if people are, if there are other people out there, or would that help?
That would be great. That would be great, because we did that before, and like I said, it took a couple weeks for people to respond, and then it took a couple months for additional people to respond. And I want anybody out there, potential plaintiff or just a person, to feel comfortable and confident that they can provide information and it will not be disclosed. And then if somebody else out there, obviously, wants to just have a conversation with me, that we are open to do that.
Rebecca, thank you so much for taking the time this morning. Has this coronavirus impacted this case at all in terms of delays, in terms of, the whole process of, fighting?
No, it hasn't. No, our investigation forges ahead. And you're the first person that I've spoken to about this in interview and any sort of information. So just so you know, you have...
Thank you. I'm going to get it out right away. Rebecca, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.